Welcome to All Home Care Matters, the show where we discuss all things home care, with discussions on important age-related matters and topics. Brought to you by Enriched Life Home Care Services, the #1 rated home care provider in Michigan by Top Rated Local.
Hello, and welcome back to All Home Care Matters. If this is your first time visiting us here at the show, we want to say thank you for taking time out to be with us today. We appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and that's why we try and make each episode here at All Home Care Matters something that will hopefully matter to you. Today, I am honored to welcome a remarkable person and friend, Michael Herrington. Michael is the founder of Ways to Wellness. Welcome, Michael. How are you?
I'm great, Lance. How are you? It's such a pleasure to be here today.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Our pleasure. You know, I introduced you as a founder of Ways to Wellness. And for viewers and listeners who may not know what that is, why don't you take a moment and explain what Ways to Wellness is for our audience?
Sure. Thanks. Ways to Wellness, we're a publishing company, and we started in 2020. My background was magazine publishing and marketing. And one of the things we thought about back in 2020 when I left my career in marketing and distribution of magazines at retail was how, I heard this stat about the CDC said the second leading cause of illness and death among seniors is loneliness. So one of the things we really thought about, my partner and I, Dr. Mark Hewlett, was, let's create something that's really intentional for seniors and bring products out to keep their minds active, to keep them stimulated, slow cognitive decline. And so we've been doing that since 2020. And obviously the pandemic hit, and we were like, do we really start a company at this time? And a very brief conversation, it was like, they need us now more than ever. So that's when we started.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I know, the pandemic was such a horrific time for so many families for so many reasons. That's how our show got started, because we were going out into the communities and doing these events and, support groups. And then we made the decision to stop before the governor did. But during that time, we're trying to figure out how can we still help get support out to these families, because like you said, this is when they needed that more than ever. So was that really what inspired your mission to support these families and caregivers? Or
Absolutely. It was, my partner, Dr. Mark Hewlett, he studied pandemics. He taught at Duke. And, a lot of us had never been through a pandemic before, right, in our whole lifetime. And a lot of the seniors have, but he said, man, this is going to go on for like 3 to 4 years. And I honestly didn't really believe him, but it was like, no, this is serious, and it's going to affect the supply chain and all of that. So no, we were, just really committed to addressing the issue. And that's what drove us was, really the seniors. And it's not just seniors, it's the caregivers, right? And people that are, struggling with bringing really fun activities and resources to those folks. So that's what drove us. That's our why.
Wow. We're kind of post-pandemic. I don't know about you, but we still encounter people like with our company and with the work that we're doing, still getting COVID, still having some effects. And then, we're hearing about long COVID and things like that. But what is your research and what's your analysis showing that are some of the key challenges facing seniors today, like, with that cognitive decline, with isolation, and how is Ways to Wellness helping to address those issues?
Yeah, great question. So, the Alzheimer's Association did a study, and they concluded that if people engage with, the word searches, mazes, Sudoku trivia, things like that on a regular basis, it can slow cognitive decline and really the onset of dementia by 47%. So it's significant. So that reinforced for us why we're doing this, right? So that's really, and what we did, Lance, when we launched the company, we had very small publications like 5x7, and we were in print only. And we were primarily going into senior living. And then in 2021, our printer at the time said, hey, we can't print your books for June. We ran out of paper. So this little publisher was hit by the pandemic and the supply chain. And so we had to pivot. It's like, okay, if you're a publisher and you lose print, that could take you out. So we said, no, we got to pivot quickly. So we came up with a PDF delivery of these publications, and we didn't have print paper for 283 days, but we never missed a delivery on the PDFs. And what we realized was our market actually just exploded. It was not just senior living. It's adult day, it's in-home care, it's healthcare companies, it's area agencies on aging, it's all of the people that serve our seniors. So now we're back in print. So we have the beautiful print books with a great printer in Tennessee, Ingram Lighting Source, and we deliver the PDF. So we can deliver it any way people want it.
Do you have a more popular option between digital and print?
Such a great question. It's interesting. We're doing about 70% of our volume is actually print.
Wow.
So we're finding that people really enjoy the print. And the audience, it makes sense, right? I mean, it's eventually, I think, gonna transition over time, but they're just beautiful. I think I sent you some
Yeah.
books, but they feel great. And yeah, so and what we do, Lance, too, which is interesting, is my background in publishing. A lot of publishers brought personalization to the actual print books, and that's what we do too. So we actually create them for brands. So in-home care agencies, we make it for them with their branding. And so on the print side, and then we also do that on the PDF side.
Yeah, and we do have a book that you branded for our home care company, which we've all played around with it and used it. And I, as far as digital and print, I still like to hold a book in my hand rather than read it off a screen. I don't know that I will ever change, but yeah. So I want to talk too about like stimulation because I was speaking last night. I shared with you before we came on that I was asked to speak at the University of Denver, and we were screening a phenomenal dementia film, and it was about some of the research, some of the breakthroughs, the testing, but so much of it focused in on these people need engagement, they need stimulation, they need something that they can have a purpose for, right? Can you explain what makes the book so effective in promoting that mental stimulation and even emotional well-being?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So for us, we really focus in the intentionality of the content. We create all of our content internally. We focus on wellness, movement, nutrition for seniors. So we want it to be super dignified for our audience, right? So we're really, that we want it to be fun, engaging. We have music playlists with the PDFs, so people can play the music that ties into the theme. So every month we're covering a different state or we're covering a different country. So we want it to be kind of a journey for the senior and the caregivers, right? And keeping their minds. I mean, we get so many testimonials from people that it's just heartwarming. Like we'll get Ann Scooter, rest in peace. She's in Westchester, Pennsylvania. She got a book that I had dropped off years ago, and she found the book and wrote us a letter. And I keep the letter here in my office, and I often, on our journey, I'm looking at that letter a lot, but it just warms my heart. She was saying, "Thank you for creating a book." She said it was a gift from heaven. I mean, it just gave me goosebumps. And I was like, oh my goodness. And she said, it made me feel so good about my abilities, right? To hear something like that from a senior. Another one in Montana, she came back with a note and said, at night when I can't sleep, I do my activity books and it helps calm me down and I don't feel as anxious. I'm like, oh my goodness. So those stories just really, keeps the team going with our mission, right? There's another story. There's a gentleman on our website. He passed away recently, but he had Lewy bodies dementia, and he was getting Colorful Fun, which is for folks that have early stages of cognitive decline. And so he loved the book, and we get a letter from his wife, who was his primary caregiver. And apparently, mid-afternoon, late afternoon, he would get agitated every day. And he had just received his book, and she had sent a letter to us thanking us. And I was kind of, wow, thanking us. And she said, normally he gets agitated. And I didn't hear from him for 2 hours.
Oh,
And I thought he was sleeping in his lazy boy. And she went in the room, took a picture of him. And she said, thank you. He was so engaged. And the smile on his face, she sent us a picture. And I said, oh my gosh. And she thanked us, saying it gave me a break.
wow.
as a caregiver. And it just warmed our hearts. And I said, Pat, is there any way we can use that photograph for our website? He's so handsome and so engaged. And, those stories are really what, it's like, okay, we're doing the right thing. This is helping people, it's helping caregivers, and it's helping our seniors.
You know, that's a great segue, Michael, to this question because you mentioned the benefit to Pat. How are these activity books really empowering the caregivers and even organizations that are working directly with these seniors?
hmm Well, one of the things that, that I've learned is the caregivers. I mean, when you talk about some of the stats, 7 out of 10 caregivers feel like they're isolated and depressed, and 6 out of 10 say, and this is from AARP, that they don't have the resources, right? And so they have such a tough job. As you're in the business land. So, if we can give them an idea or a resource and, they don't have to search for things or, you know, that's what we're doing is really trying to provide those resources for the caregivers to help their seniors. There's 53 million people caring for a loved one with dementia at home in the US alone.
That's the known number. I mean, I don't know what the true number is. It's going to be a lot higher than that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
When you look at the success and the impact that you guys have had in, really a short amount of time. I mean, 2020 was only just over 4 years ago.
Right.
When you look at that, Michael, what could you have imagined where you would be at today? Is it where you wanted to be? I'm sure, just like most people, you're never where you really want to be, right?
Yeah.
Because we're always striving for that next step. But if I would have talked to you in 2020 and I said, Michael, where's Ways to Wellness going to be at the beginning of 2025? What would your answer have been then?
Well, it's funny when you start a company, you do look at it and you're like, wow, we have come so far, but it doesn't always feel that way when
Right.
you're on the journey. It's tough. But when you believe in something, if you would have asked me that, I don't know. I would have said, here's where I'd love to be. We want to help and get these books in as many seniors' hands and caregivers as possible. That's our mission. And we dream big here at Waste to Wellness. We really do. So, I don't know what I would have said in 2020. I don't know if I would have said we'd be in the PDF form. We were really a print publisher, and now we're in both. So I didn't really, I would never have foreseen that. But it's amazing to see and for me to be in a totally different industry and to meet the people that care for these are mission driven people. They're caring for seniors for a reason,
Right.
whether it's senior living, whether it's adult day, whether it's your business, in-home care, agencies on aging. People are here to serve our seniors, and so that community of people, which is massive, is really heartwarming, and it's great. I mean, it's just the relationships and the things that we're doing and the organizations that we're now talking to. It's humbling, Lance, frankly, and so we just I don't know what I would have said in 2020, but we're thrilled. We're growing. This little company's growing. It's exciting, and what I love is when hearing the feedback of in-home care agencies that are using the books, the print books for something I never really realized. They're not just in-home care. They're caring for people. The referral partners are senior living, and it's adult day, and it's doctors' offices and healthcare. So when I hear feedback from them about how these books are opening doors for their businesses and to help seniors and the caregivers, it's just heartwarming. It's awesome.
No, that's incredible. Do you have a personal story that for you, just, as the owner, as kind of the inventor, that has really risen above any of the other positive things you've heard that really has set it apart?
Yeah, no, I think about that often. It's like people say, why did you start this company? I'm the youngest of 9, and my family, we're all going to get together here, my siblings in July. We do that every year. But I reflect on my mother. My mother, is amazing raising 9 kids, but every single day she would do a crossword, at the kitchen table. And we lived in Milwaukee. She'd get a paper in the morning and a paper in the evening. And she would do, her puzzles twice a day. And she did that all the way pretty much to the end, and so that was an inspiration. My family loves doing puzzles. They love doing Scrabble. They love to challenge their minds, and they're all super active, cognitively and physically. Well, maybe not all of them, everyone's cognitively active, but my aunt, she's in her mid 90s. She
Mm.
still does the New York Times crossword with her son.
Wow.
And so they do that together. So, Aunt Julie, she was and still is an inspiration for me and for my partner Mark. Early on, she was she was doing the books and giving us feedback, on how to, from her perspective, from the seniors' perspective. So that's just been an inspiration in how we've come, this far.
That's incredible. I want to talk a little bit about branding because with any business, branding, marketing, having an awareness and a presence online is important. How important is it with branding in this type of work, and how do your custom books help these organizations serve their seniors and really have a way to stand out with that purpose?
It's a great question. Our mission is to combat loneliness and cognitive decline in seniors with fun activities while promoting the organizations that serve them. So if we're, for us, we want to bring the content, we want to curate for people so they don't have to search and do the work. We do all that for you. And with the branding for the organizations, it's their books. So I tell people, I'm like, hey, think of us as a behind the scenes custom publisher for you.
Yeah,
Right. So that's really, what drives us.
that's incredible. So this, I think, I thought this might have been one of your answers for the most positive accomplishments so far, but your books have already reached over 100,000 seniors, which that's not a small feat. What do you think has driven that kind of growth in reaching so many and the success?
Well, when you think about that audience, I mean, it is impressive, but there's so much more that needs to be done, right? So for us, we're a little company, so we're not doing a lot of advertising, Lance. I mentioned this community of people around senior services. It's remarkable the amount of people that are, it's not even like I have in-home care companies, Lance, that we custom, they go to senior fairs and they go to health fairs and they go to, agencies on aging, events and things like that. And they'll talk to somebody that's in their market that is technically a competitor, but they'll share it.
Yeah.
So I think they all see they're compassionate people. They see the need to do good things for seniors. And if they see an innovative idea, and I'm not saying that I had that all figured, we didn't have that figured out. We're learning as we're going, and it's amazing. A lot of it's word of mouth. I'm grateful for you to meet you, Lance, and that you're an ambassador for Ways to Wellness. So, for us, and I've got out into some of these conferences, and it's just awesome to meet people and share our story, and they want to hear. I recently went to a conference in an executive in Denver who has been in the adult day space for 30 years. She said she's been going to these conferences for years, and she's always looking on the exhibit floor for something innovative. And she came up to me and, we had a meeting. She said, we need to have a Zoom, and we met. And she said, I look for one thing typically. I've been doing this for so long. And for me, since her word, she said it was Ways to Wellness. She said, you had such a unique value proposition. I was so drawn to it. So now they're getting their 1,000 print books and they're getting their PDFs. And she's awesome. She's on the board with NADSA, which is the Adult Day Association of America. And there's things like that. So, the word of mouth, but also, just being out there, getting the word out about who we are,
Right.
this little company and what we do.
No, I think that's incredible. And, stole a little bit of my thunder there, Mike, but it's okay. I, being the brand ambassador for Ways to Wellness, we're approached constantly about, will you do this for us? Will you do that? And, I'm pretty much an easy sale. I have very small few criteria, and that is this going to add value to our senior industry and our caregiving, industry? Is it legitimate? Meaning, we were approached by somebody that had the cure to Alzheimer's that, wanted to pay us a large amount of money to be on the show, and we politely declined. But, when a mutual friend of ours, Rebecca Dowie at the, CSN, was telling me about the work you guys are doing, and, I admittedly had not heard of you. And I said, let me check them out. And, it's just incredible. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but people watching or listening right now can go to the website. They can download a free book. There's no cost. There's no obligation. And we're just proud to be a supporter and a brand ambassador for Ways to Wellness because it is such a wholesome product and resource that isn't just helping, like Pat's husband, but it's also helping Pat. It's not just helping the client, but it's helping that caregiver, that family that has to take maybe grandpa into the doctor's office who has mid, early, late stage dementia, has anxiety, can't sit still, likes to fidget. Having that book there in that waiting room gives him something to occupy himself, which in turn is helping his health. People I think miss that component of it. It can help lower blood pressure, reduce anxiety, and it can be stimulating cognitively, all things that we all need, right? And so, the work you guys are doing is just phenomenal, and we're so proud to be a part of it. So, kind of stole a little bit of your thunder, but I'm going to ask this question. Sure. How do your materials help caregivers that are often overwhelmed or under-supported in their roles?
Oh, that's great. And you mentioned Rebecca. Rebecca is just awesome. And we live in Pennsylvania in the mountains in the Poconos, and I was introduced to Rebecca from a friend, and she lives 10 minutes from us. So we get together every month and we have coffee and we talk and we really support caregiving support network. And so it's just amazing. So to help caregivers a lot of times they're looking for resources, Lance, and they're super stressed. We talked about that. It's such a tough job. So for the caregivers, they I don't want to, it's not like a big picture, but if they went to our website, if a caregiver's watching, they could go to our website, ways2wellness.health. And at the very top of the page, or the homepage, it says for caregivers. So if you click on that, you can go through samples, flip books of the activity books, right? And then if you want to order their Ways to Wellness, we put out 17 publications every month as PDFs. They get delivered via email for printing on location for $9.99 a month. So we wanted to make this so accessible to those folks that are searching or maybe struggling with ways to engage and resources for them and their loved ones.
Yeah, and it's not even $1 a book.
No.
That's the best part.
And when speaking of Rebecca, so for Caregiving Support Network, if people were to subscribe to theirs, so we branded the PDFs for them, we give back a pretty significant portion of that subscription revenue to support their not-for-profit, their mission. So our partnership is so symbiotic, and it's just, we want to help them, and they're growing, and it's wonderful to see.
Yeah, they are growing, that's for sure. You'd mentioned it, and I just want to reiterate it. This space that you're in, that we're in, that, Becca's in, it is a very close-knit community. For the most part, everybody is happy to help the other person. You mentioned at the conferences, a home care company has a branded book and they're sharing it with another home care company. It's not all territorial, right? I mean, right. Our mission, and I like to believe this, and I truly feel it's also very real. People in this space, they're in the space because they chose to deliberately be in it to help other people. And, the work that you guys are doing and that Becca's doing, it's just something we're very proud to be a part of. But I want to talk about someone who might be watching or listening to this right now who works in senior care with older adults. What is the first step they should take to start using your books?
Well, it's a great question. So there's two things. So if somebody's in home care and working to senior services and the PDFs for printing on location resonates with them, it's super easy. I mean, if they went to our website, they would scroll down to the bottom of our homepage and it says for printing on location. And if they hit on that, they can subscribe, and there's a field in that order form that is URL, their URL for their company. And once they hit that, it automatically triggers to our production team to create that custom PDF product for them. So then they'll get a welcome letter, they'll get, an email with their publications, and they can make changes as they wish, and we do that very, very efficiently. If they're looking at this and they're saying, wow, print books really resonate with me. And I think that, branded print books will be great for community outreach and for engagement and to really get the message out about the great services they provide. there's a button on there called, order print books. And that goes to my calendar. And that calendar's been pretty busy lately, but it's pretty neat because it's just a conversation. And then we get their marketing assets, their logos, make sure it's high def and high res. And then we have a graphic design team that creates it for them. And once those proofs are approved and they say thumbs up, we send it to our printer in Nashville, and those books arrive in 2 to 2.5 weeks.
That's incredible. And I will say it is very, very high quality. When we first met, you were good enough to send us a custom branded book, and it's great. I mean, you would think it was made by our company. You can't tell that this was like secondhand ordered or anything. It's really incredible quality. We talked about what you would have said back in 2020 if we had met, about where Ways to Wellness would be now. I want to look ahead. And this is a question I'm very fond of asking guests often, because I think there's a lot of great answers and it also gives some insight. But if we were to talk 5 years from now, where is Ways to Wellness? Any exciting new things on the horizon? Any projects that you could share?
You bet. We're so excited. We dream big here. We have, yeah, I mean, I'll give you a little sneak preview. So what I see in 5 years is the print books will still be live and kicking. A lot of people, and I came from that world where, yeah, I remember being in a book conference back when the Kindle came out. And the president of this very large book publisher was giving the outlook that in, 20 years, 90% will be on the Kindle. Well, that has totally flipped, and it flipped quite a while ago. So print is not dead by any means. We're going to be in print, and we're going to be the PDFs, absolutely. And we might be transitioning more to digital on people's devices. That'll happen over time. But what I'm super excited about, and what we're planning for right now, is more personalization for the organization. So more bespoke books. Everyone talks about AI. No, 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 no. We're going to make it personal for these organizations in a way that is really unique. And I'll give you a snapshot. We're doing a project right now with an agency on aging. I can't say who it is, but it's a big one. And we've been working with them. They do the digital PDF, and we also do print books. But what they came to us with was, hey, we want to help educate about nutrition for healthy eating habits for seniors, healthy snacking, healthy when you go out to eat, food safety. So there's so much there, and there's such a big need. So now what Ways to Wellness is doing with them is we're creating custom print books, but we're using their materials that they get from the government that's on education. So they're basically PDFs. And then what we're able to do is create content,
Wow.
puzzles, crosswords, word search, word jumbles, things like that around those educational pieces. So we're playing a role in the education process to help our seniors. And that just excites all of us. I mean, our entire team is just over the moon on this project because we're not just helping people stay cognitively active. We're helping educate, and we're involved in that process of education. So that's super exciting for us. So I see more of that type of work, really more personalization and customization.
No, that's incredible. Quick question. We got two of the books here, and one's portrait, one's landscape. Is there an option when somebody goes to get their books, like how they want to receive them, or?
Well, great question. So they, of course, can get the PDFs and the print books, right? So those are two options. But as far as the print books go and the PDFs, the reason why Colorful Fun is landscape is we've done a lot of research and surveys, and a lot of it just comes organically. Like we'll have a customer say, hey, my residents love and my seniors love Colorful Fun. They love to color them in dollars. But it's difficult to color when it's in portrait. So we're like, easy fix. Our production team changed it to landscape, and the feedback has been phenomenal. So that's you can't get the puzzle experience in landscape. I guess you could, but it wouldn't make too much sense. But that's why Colorful Fun is landscape, is really to help the audience and do coloring more effectively.
That makes perfect sense. Final question. I would like to have you, and we're going to have it up on the screen throughout the interview here, as well as in the show notes. But where, again, would you like people to go to learn more?
Well, go to our website. It's www.ways2wellness.health. And there's information on there, and you can click on my calendar. I'm available to chat with people. I'm talking to people all the time, but that's great if you want to just ask questions or and if just one other thing I want to say is these
Please.
subscriptions are not contracts, right? So fortunately, our cancellation rate is very, very low, but there's no obligation, right? So we don't want any hooks, right? So if somebody orders, I had a conversation yesterday, said she wants to try it, the PDFs. She said, if it doesn't work, I said, you can cancel. It's no problem at all.
That's incredible. And you're also on social media.
Oh yeah. So you can go Facebook, you can look at Instagram, and of course LinkedIn, and yeah, we're out there.
Yeah, make sure to like and follow.
Get out there.
Yes, make sure to like and follow. Well, Michael Herrington, founder of Ways to Wellness, it's been a pleasure. Always great to see you. Thank you so much for the work that you and Ways to Wellness are doing to help support caregivers and their loved ones.
Thank you, Lance. Such a pleasure to see you, and I'm so grateful for our partnership. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today here at All Home Care Matters. All Home Care Matters is here to help families as they navigate these long-term care issues. We invite you to visit us at allhomecarematters.com, where there's a private, secure, fillable form where you can give us feedback, show ideas, or if you have questions. Every form is read and responded to. And remember, you can listen to the show on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms or watch the show on our official YouTube channel. Just make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. We'd also like to say thank you again to Michael Herrington, the founder of Ways to Wellness, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again here at All Home Care Matters.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again on another episode of All Home Care Matters. To learn more about the show and to connect with us, visit us at allhomecarematters.com.